This presentation will examine Davis-Bacon's procedures for obtaining and compiling wage payment information for the purpose of issuing wage determinations for covered construction projects and will provide information about your participation in our wage surveys. The Davis-Bacon Regulations, 29 CFR 1.3, authorize the Wage and Hour Division's administrator to conduct a continuing program for the obtaining and compiling of wage rate information, and to encourage the voluntary submission of wage rate data by contractors, contractors associations, labor organizations, public officials, and other interested parties, reflecting wage rates paid to laborers and mechanics on various types of construction in the area. The various types of information that may be considered in making Davis-Bacon wage determinations are listed in these regulations. Surveys are conducted by staff of the 5 regional offices of the Wage and Hour Division, or WHD. The survey reporting form used by WHD to collect wage and fringe benefit information for designated construction projects is the Contractors Report of Construction Wage Rates, Form WD-10, which exists in both a paper and electronic format. This form provides for reporting data on an individual job classification basis. Among the data requested are the contractor's name and address, project description and location, value of project, starting and completion dates, the peak number of workers employed in each classification, such as carpenters, electricians, etc., and the wage rates, including bona fide fringe benefits paid each worker. Federally directed and assisted construction activity is not restricted to any geographic sector of the nation or to any particular type of construction. As a result, data collection methods employed by the WHD for gathering prevailing wage information must be capable of determining with accuracy patterns of wage compensation, including fringe benefits, for virtually all classifications of construction workers in at least the 4 major types of construction within each of the more than 3,000 counties in the United States. For its data collection program, the WHD usually designates the county as the principal area of focus, although in many cases more than one county is included in a specific data gathering effort. See Regulations 29 CFR 1.3. Prior to starting a survey parameters are established. They include location, can be statewide or a small group of counties, construction type. Surveys are conducted for building, residential, heavy, and highway construction. Surveys can be conducted for more than one type of construction at a time. Time frame. The time frame covers projects that are active during that period and is not based on the start and end date of the project. As long as the project was active during the time frame, data may be submitted on that project. The time frame for active projects is usually 1 year. Cutoff date. Data must be postmarked on or before a pre-established cutoff date. Data is generally collected over a 6-month period. Before we move on to the survey process itself, it is important to point out that your participation in our surveys is crucial. The accuracy of our wage determinations developed from the survey data is dependent upon interested party participation. It is also important to note that WHD does not use the data you provide in these surveys to target enforcement. The following slides identify the 9 major steps in conducting construction wage surveys. 1. Interested party notification. Unions, associations, agencies, federal, state, and local, congressional representatives, and so forth are notified by letter at the start of the survey. Forms WD-10 are included with these letters. In addition, pre-survey briefings are held for interested parties in the survey areas. 2. Data collection. Dodge reports are obtained by the regional offices for the applicable time frame, construction types, and the area to be surveyed. Each prime contractor or listed owner of every Dodge reported project is sent a letter with WD-10s, pre-printed with Dodge data, as well as blank forms, and prepaid return envelope. Included with these forms are forms requesting information on subcontractors for each project. Each subcontractor reported by prime contractor is then also sent WD-10 forms, pre-printed with project information as well as blank forms. 3. Follow-ups. Every non-responding contractor, prime and sub, is sent at least one follow-up letter. 4. Analysis and clarification of data. Received WD-10s are reviewed, and any unclear, ambiguous information is clarified with the submitter. Data is analyzed by regional wage analysts. Calls are made to clarify work as well as to obtain additional information as to work performed, verify rates, number of workers, and so forth. 5. During analysis, each submission is tested to see that it meets survey criteria. Data was postmarked or submitted electronically by the cutoff date. Submitted project was active during the survey time frame. Total value of submitted project should be over $2,000. Submitted project was one of the construction types being surveyed. Submitted project is located in the area being surveyed. 6. Submitted information is verified in one of 3 ways. A. Contractor verification. Selected sample is verified by written request for supporting payroll. B. Third-party verification. Selected sample is verified by phone or written contact with the contractor. C. On-site verification. Selected sample, data that most affects each classification, rate, is verified by on-site visit. 7. To calculate the prevailing wage and fringe benefit, we first determine if a majority, more than 50% of employees in a given classification in a given area are paid the same rate. When that occurs, the majority rate becomes the prevailing rate. As an example, if information is received on a total of 20 carpenters and 11 of those carpenters are paid $20 an hour, $20 becomes the prevailing wage for carpenters. Otherwise, a weighted average wage rate will be calculated for that classification. Fringe benefits are calculated in a similar manner. 8. The calculation of wage rates for the survey and the craft classifications must meet sufficiency criteria to be issued. Rate calculation sufficiency criteria. Wage rates are calculated for each craft, for each county, and for each type of construction. In order for a rate to be issued for a craft or a wage determination to be issued for a particular area, the craft and the survey must meet specific sufficiency criteria. For the survey, this means that rates must be recommended for a minimum number of key classes before a wage determination can be issued for that county or area. There are 16 key classifications for building construction. In order to issue a wage determination for an area, county, we must be able to issue rates for at least 8 of those classifications. There are 8 key classes for heavy and highway construction. We need rates recommended for at least 4 of these classes for a sufficient survey. There are 12 key classes for residential construction. We need rates recommended for at least 6 of these classes for a sufficient survey. If rates cannot be recommended for at least 1/2 the key classes for the county area, the previous WD rates for that county area will remain in effect. Prior to calculating the wage rate for a particular craft, the data must be separated by construction type and by county. For crafts, in most cases, there must be data received from at least 3 contractors, with a total of at least 6 employees, before a rate can be recommended for that craft. In some instances, the sufficiency may be lowered to at least 2 contractors with a total of at least 3 employees. If the sufficiency standard can be met in the county, a rate will be recommended for that craft using the data from that county only. If there is not sufficient information to recommend a rate within the county, the calculation for that craft can be expanded to include data from federal projects and/or other counties. But in all cases, metropolitan county data and rural county data is never commingled. By expanding the craft calculation to other counties, more complete wage determinations will be issued. The expansion from one county to include data from other counties is as follows. County. The first step in calculating the wage rate is to calculate the rate for each craft for each county and each construction type. If there is sufficient data, a rate is recommended for that craft for that county and construction type. No further calculation for that classification is made. Group. If there is not sufficient data to recommend a rate in the county, the calculation will be expanded to include any data on the craft submitted from federally funded projects, and if none, to contiguous counties. Group or MSA for metropolitan counties. Supergroup. If the expansion to the contiguous group of counties or MSA counties still does not result in sufficient data to recommend a rate for a classification, the calculation will be expanded to include any data on the classification, craft, from federally funded projects, and if none, to other groups of rural counties, supergroup, or in the case of a metropolitan county, to the CMSA counties. State. If after the two previous expansions to other counties there is still not sufficient data to recommend a rate for the craft, data from federally funded projects will be included in the calculation. And if none, data from all the metropolitan or all the rural counties in the entire state for that classification will be included in the calculation. In no case will metropolitan and rural data be mixed. If sufficient data for a craft is not received even at the state level, a rate for that craft will not be issued. 9. After final review, survey data and recommended wage rates are forwarded to the National Office for review and approval of wage rates. 10. The National Office publishes wage determinations based on survey results. All published wage determinations can be found at wdol.gov. Davis-Bacon wage determinations are based upon actual wage and fringe benefit rates currently paid to construction workers in the area to which the wage determinations apply. The long-term policy of the Department of Labor has been to encourage the voluntary submission of wage and fringe benefit data. During the course of the survey, repeated attempts are made to contact non-responding contractors for such data. Prevailing wage determinations reflect the data submitted during the course of the survey. Low participation by interested parties results in wage rates calculated beyond the county level, sometimes as far as the state level. Lack of participation prevents the publication of full and complete wage determinations. Missing classifications lead to more conformances, which creates uncertainty surrounding rates paid on your projects. Here are two important websites that you should be familiar with. The first site contains all survey information, including states to be surveyed, contact information for regional office staff, construction type definitions, instructions to completing the WD-10 form, and a link to the electronic WD-10. The second site contains all past and current wage determinations, as well as additional information on the Davis-Bacon Act. Once a wage determination is published based on a wage survey, you have the ability to appeal the results of the survey. Your first point of contact is the regional office that conducted the survey. The regional office can provide a summary of the survey, WD-22s and 22As, and answer any initial concerns. If the response from the regional office is not satisfactory, you can appeal their findings by requesting review and reconsideration from the wage hour administrator as outlined in 29 CFR 1.8. This request should be accompanied by a full statement of the interested party's position and by any information relevant to the issue. Finally, if the decision of the administrator is not favorable, an interested party may appeal to the Administrative Review Board. All decisions by the Administrative Review Board are final.